Kindly accept the recording request in order to proceed further. With that, once again, welcome everyone. On behalf of Center for Water Research, I, Radhika Mule, would like to welcome you all to the online series of CWR Water Talks. The Center for Water Research is an interdisciplinary initiative at IISER Pune, formed in November 2022. CWR aims to generate interdisciplinary knowledge about water systems, including their history and heritage, resource management, and sustainable use, and to train the next generation of scholars to look at water from an integrated and multidimensional lens. CWR also provides a platform from IISER Pune to engage in socially relevant research that will have impact on public policy and action. As speakers in today's Water Talk episode, we have with us former chairman of Central Water Commission, Mr. A.K. Bajaj, and authors Sanya Saroha and Namrata Kabra from Kubernein Initiative to share key findings and insights from their report, Practice to Policy, Guiding India's Evolving Water Governance. Kubernein Initiative is an independent female-led geopolitical advisory firm based in Mumbai, working on mainstreaming issues that need greater intellectual capacity and focus. Our vision is to build an organization that considers critical questions with a perspective that balances traditional thought in the field of international relations and diplomacy with new and emerging ideas from the global south. Kubernein Initiative focuses on areas including water, climate and security, urban transformation, gender, and a more inclusive foreign policy for India. India's water governance is at a crossroads, facing mounting challenges from climate change, unsustainable extraction, and fragmented policies. While numerous legal and policy frameworks exist, they often fail to integrate critical aspects such as community participation, gender equity, and ecological sustainability. Kubernein Initiative is launching its latest report, From Practice to Policy, Guiding India's Evolving Water Governance, which advocates for a transformative shift in water governance. This report aims to bridge traditional knowledge with modern biogeography-based governance approaches, providing a blueprint for holistic, climate-resilient water management. I'll now request Mr. A.K. Bajaj to kindly share his remarks and insights regarding the report. Hello, sir.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening to everybody, or good afternoon, whatever you feel like. So, just a few opening remarks the organizer wanted me to give.
Sir,
This report.
sorry to disturb you. Will it please be possible to switch on the video?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, I can't find my here.
Hello, sir. Sir, I think you are on mute.
Okay, now, okay.
Yes, yes. Thank you, sir.
wanted me to give some initial and very limited water resources available to us.
Uh,
Uh,
sorry, sir. We are getting comments that we are unable to hear you clearly.
as some of you would know the statistics, that although there is something like 18 and 18, the usable water is only about 1100 something. The rest I'm having to use my iPhone basically. Hello, hello. Can you hear
Uh,
me?
Sir, it's a bit difficult to hear you. Maybe we could come back to you after Namrata and Sanya, uh, if that is okay. Uh, okay. I think moving ahead, I'll now request Sanya and Namrata to proceed with sharing their insights and learnings from the report, and we'll come back to Mr. A.K. Bajaj after hearing both of you.
I want to check in case if his network is stabilized now.
We could proceed with you both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Center for Water Research, for having us here today. And so we have prepared a small PPT for all the participants. Basically, it's a small glimpse of what our report is all about and what topics we've covered, the important topics that we've covered in our report. And this report is actually our extensive research of 2 years where we interacted with multiple stakeholders and experts to get a hold of India's water security, um, including its government and management. So we conducted interviews with not only experts working on water, but also locals working on grassroots levels and communities. And we conducted workshops and field visits to understand water conditions in India. So, this report is basically an attempt to understand the water resources of India from a borderless perspective and integrate water's perspective encompassing social, economic, and ecological dimensions uh, to enhance the resilience and sustainability of water system. So, a comprehensive analysis of best water practices across 10 biogeographic zones of India has been conducted, which we'll be explaining as we go further into the presentation. Moving on to the next slide. So we have in our report we have classified 5 priority areas in our report, which is as you can see on your screen: gender equity, community and livelihood development, water energy food nexus, climate risk and resilience, and groundwater aquifer recharge. So, the idea behind these 5 priority areas is to help in ensuring that the future water projects to be more inclusive, long-term sustainable, and more aligned with the government policies. So, starting with the first priority area, which is gender. So, I think during our research, we found out that 23% of schoolgirls drop out of schools upon reaching puberty due to insufficient access to water. And there's this small village in Maharashtra where men marry multiple women called as water wives. Imagine an area where polygamy is the only solution to water security, where these water wives, are only to go and fetch water and collect water for their households. So we really need to understand that women are primary stakeholders and what in water resource and also water resource managers. So water stress not only affects women's well-being but also deprives them of spending time on income generating opportunities and better quality of life. So it is really important to understand women's role in decision making for developing inclusive governance. Next, we have community and livelihoods. So many communities rely on water for their livelihoods, especially in agriculture and fisheries, involving locals in decision making, ensures practices align with their needs. So, water conservation efforts generate jobs and support primary livelihoods and enrich both community and water resource. So, for example, fisher communities in Ganga, around 10 to 13 million people in Ganga plains, are estimated to be dependent on fish resources for their livelihoods, directly or indirectly. So next we have water, energy, food nexus. So as I think, I don't know how many of us know, but actually agriculture plays a huge role in India, as we all know. But agriculture accounts for 15% of India's GDP. So agriculture in India largely rely on rainfall and is facing increasing demand for irrigation due to higher population or growth in population. It highlights the interconnectedness of these systems. So drought, erratic rainfall, and water insecurity reduce crop yields, affecting economic and food security as communities are seeking alternative source of income. So next we have climate risk, which is according to World Bank, two-thirds of India is prone to droughts and one-fourth is prone to floods, and hence it becomes really important to really understand this aspect also from within the five areas that we have covered, because increasing weather events such as floods, droughts, and melting glaciers, which is a big threat to our ecosystem, human health, and water security. So addressing these challenges requires integrating water climate resilience into our policies. Next, we have groundwater and aquifer recharge. So, as we all know, that groundwater is lifeline of India, and the groundwater level is depleting day by day. And Indian cities actually cater to about 48% of its water supply from groundwater. And India is the largest user of groundwater, with a fourth of the total global withdrawal. So, there is an urgent need to recharge the aquifers and undertake aquifer management and mapping to increase the groundwater table. So, all these five areas, priority areas that we have classified into our reports, is actually to really understand water management and water resource in depth, because without these five areas we cannot really understand water, and water cannot be studied in silo. So we really need to get into these aspects to really help and form a better policy for water. So next, in our report, moving on to the next slide, we have also explained the importance of historical water management systems and harvesting practices in India. So it is really important to look at these age-old water practices in India that has been going on since ages and are still practiced in India. So the reason for looking at these traditional water practices was to understand that how communities are so connected with water and have so much in relation with these, water cycles. In fact, even festivals, traditions, and cultural events and agriculture practices have historically been conducted to the water through, understanding the water cycle and natural rhythms. So, and in today's day and time, the people living in cities have lost that connect and touch with the water. So we tend to have the superficial understanding of water, but we don't really go into that depth of understanding it. And and all these there are some policies schemes by the government, but some of the policies, like related to riverfront development or river interlinking projects, they tend to overlook the natural dynamics of water system. So here in the map, you'll see we have marked around 40 traditional rainwater harvesting practices that existed in India and are still also practiced in India, and have also somewhere helped in rejuvenating and reviving and conserving the water in India, because some of these practices are coming again back with the communities really bringing those practices, age-old practices, back into the practice. So I think I'll just explain 2, 3 examples from historical rainwater harvesting practice. One is Eries, which is practiced in South Tamil Nadu, and they play several important roles in maintaining ecological harmony as flood control systems, preventing soil erosion and wastage of runoff during periods of heavy rainfall, and it really helps in recharging the groundwater in the surrounding areas. So basically, there is, and similarly, there are jhors in Rajasthan, which are actually small earthen check dams that capture and conserve rainwater and groundwater recharge. So basically, I think starting from 1984, last 16 years, they've been trying to revive these 3,000 jhors across more than 650 villages in Alwar district, and this has resulted in a general rise in groundwater level, and also increase 33% increase in forest cover in that area. So it really makes a lot of difference to really understand what has already been existed in India and how we can integrate those practices with our modern technologies, or and modern a new few um, new issues that we are facing with urbanization, encroachment, and etc. So I think, Namrata, you want to take over from the next slide.
Thank you, Sanya. So I want to take us through a bit of an exercise that we did while we were studying different practices. We wanted to identify how a particular region chooses a particular practice. And while all of them are doing rainwater harvesting, why do the systems look so different from one region to another? That took us back to looking at something very basic, which is elevation, soil texture, climatic zones, temperature, etc. Even in the previous slide, I want to just once again just show that we've kind of mapped that all of these practices have a very strong relation to their biogeographies which they are in. Even though it is rainwater harvesting, but still the biogeography determines what kind of structure you have based on your elevation, climate, temperatures, etc. What we try to do is, these maps exist, of course, and do guide our water policies, but they do not exist in they exist in isolation. Through this process, we have tried to overlay certain maps, and you can see in this both of these maps, you will not see state or administrative boundaries. The boundaries that we have are the river basin boundaries, 27 river basins across India. And on the left, if you see, there is the soil texture. On right, there is elevation. Uh, this is very important when we want to understand what kind of practice, if you want to adopt certain practices or revive certain practices. There has been a huge time period gap where some of the traditional knowledge probably has gotten missed. But looking at these and the current climatic conditions, rainfall patterns, which have been changing now, we feel that overlaying some of these will guide the process for way forward, including on these maps, because of course these are static maps. We also tried attempting seasons and rainfall patterns across these geographies to identify, to understand if you're trying to dig a pond for a water practice within your region, what is the time period at which it should be. And these arrows also indicate the elevation levels, that what is the flow of water. All these things right now seem to be very simple, but they do matter a lot. We've kind of experienced these things in during our field visit. Sometimes something like in Gurgaon, when we're doing a couple of site visits, we saw that within the same district, because of the change in elevation, the same practice or the same method of water the pond was very different, because of the understanding that at different level the soil retention capacity is different, the climate is different, rainfall pattern is different. All of these are very important, which needs to be understood for policy when you start looking at water from hydrological boundaries and not from state administrative boundaries. So this has been a attempt to overlay some of these important layers. Through that, further, what we have done is we try to look at best practices across different biogeographies, which have the areas that Sanya mentioned, the 5 areas which include gender, water, energy, food nexus, groundwater recharge, climate risk and resilience, and community and livelihood. So we tried looking at different practices that have been adopting these principles with an understanding of the biogeographies of their region. And we have noted down 10 practices across this. I will take you through a couple of the practices, but before that, maybe I want to mention, okay. This is Chokha system, which is, if I can again show, it is based in the semi-arid region of Rajasthan, where people, this is a 30-40 years old practice which has begun. This did not existed from time immemorial, but it's a modern day practice, I would say, post independence practice, where square boxes kind of systems are dug. But this is a arid region which does not have good water retention capacity, so the digging of the pits is also very small. And you can see through this picture also there is a elevation bend. And these small chokhas are also, they differ from the intended use. Some chokhas are for water for cattle, some are for agriculture, some are for just recharging water. And the next system I want to take you through is Ruza or Zabo system. This is an age-old system existing from more than 100 years, which is still continued to be practiced in the Northeast India. While all of us kind of believe that Northeast India is full of rainforest and there is a lot of rains, of course, but there are certain parts of Northeast which, or especially certain mountains, which do not have rainfall because they fall in the rain shadow regions. And for them, the only source of water is certain springs that exist within the mountains. This is a system where certain springs have been revived and they have put into a canal kind of a shape, with creating embankment so that the water stays and it does not evaporate or go away. And within these systems, they have started growing paddy. This is also used for horticulture, and um, this has been done for more than 100 years, and community just take care of these systems. And these systems have to be created every year, after the season is over. Lastly, I want to take you through another system, which is ice stupas. I'm sure most of us have read about it. It's a very proud engineering achievement that has come through India. But why I wanted to highlight this, although it's very well known, is this system has come up purely based on the climate realities of India. Ladakh as a region had glaciers, and those, when the glaciers would melt, the glacial lakes would melt, would be sufficient for people to use for drinking and agriculture purpose. But the more and more melting of glaciers and rising temperatures had led to a lot of migration in Ladakh. And that is when, in that particular context, this system was engineered by Sonam Wangchuk and others in the local community. Again, the reason why we have put this is it has to be understood in a very strong context of the biogeography. This is in Trans Himalaya, which is a cold desert. Having a pond will not be sufficient. In taking any other practice, maybe, or a step well as well, it cannot be put in that kind of a system. So what they try to do is replicate the natural ecosystem itself, and this is what we have been trying to showcase through our report, that understanding of science, your local biogeography, and involvement of community is a way to ensure that water security systems and practices are continued for a long period of time. So lastly, in terms of recommendations, what we say is that to build an ecosystem-based approach to water management, we would need three-pronged approach. One would be to transition from the current understanding of administrative boundaries, where different states have control over different water bodies and rivers that flow within their territories or jurisdiction, to transition from there to looking at water from its hydrological boundaries within a watershed. The second part, which our map is, I think, one of the first or initial tools to propagate that understanding, or that kind of decision making, to look at water from a from a hydrological perspective. Secondly, bioregionalism governance. What this essentially means is, within the different biogeographies and within the hydrological boundaries, you would see that the cultures have evolved for so many years. So there is a interlink between the local geography and culture. So bioregionalism essentially means a combination of the ecology and the culture that governs within that particular region. For example, we could see in Bundelkhand, where the Jal Sahelis model has been, we have also mentioned in our report. This is a region which falls within the Ganga basin, but within the Ganga basin, again, it falls in a Deccan plateau, which is a drier region. And Bundelkhand today as a region has been divided between UP and MP. So you see the kind of restrictions that have happened through within this one region in terms of its governance has kind of distorted the understanding of water and the region. So what we want to promote through this report is to go back and look at some of these bioregional governance systems which pre-existed. All the previous examples also show a very strong understanding of those principles. And lastly, rights-based approach. When we say rights, we talk about rights both of individuals and communities as well as of the ecosystem and water itself. That both needs to be promoted. Ecological flow of water needs to be maintained. The groundwater recharge needs to be ensured so that these systems continue for a long term. And through our case studies and examples that we have seen, the systems that have lasted long are where community have a direct involvement or direct benefit out of that system. The benefit could be through many ways, which is groundwater recharge or their livelihood through fishing and agriculture, or it could be even tourism. So any kind of direct benefit and involvement in the decision making processes actually makes a lot of difference when we look at examples which continue or versus the examples which are funded for a limited period of time and then because of lack of maintenance kind of fall out. Yeah, technically, these three suggestions, recommendations that we have encompass both social, economic, and ecological dimensions of water. And going back to Sania's point that water cannot be looked in isolation, it's a very strong social factor. There is an economic factor to it and ecological. A lot of our policies are fragmented, where sometimes only the ecological factors looked at, sometimes it's only the economic aspects, or often social aspects have not been integrated. So what we need to do is integrate all of these and look at water from a perspective of not scarcity, because we have always had water in India or South Asia has always been dependent on various factors, including the monsoons and the river systems, etc. So it's about management, and if we could look at these principles, uh, we will definitely reach a stage where long-term ecological security can be achieved, which is extremely important, especially in the climate context that we are in today. We are happy to address any questions, but at the moment, thank you from both Sania and me.
Thank you so much, Sanya and Namrata, for your presentations. We would now, if possible, we would like to go back to Mr. Bajaj to hear his insights and then later proceed towards a question answer or a discussion session where uh, any participant who would like to raise questions. I see there have been interesting questions being discussed in the chat box. So we also request the participants to unmute themselves and ask those questions directly to the speakers. Before that, once again, I would like to request Mr. Bajaj to share his views. Hello, sir. I think there is a connectivity issue. So while we are trying to connect with him, we would open up the session to the participants. Please unmute yourself. You can also switch off your videos and ask your questions or share your insights. Sonia Singh had posted an interesting conversation in the chat box. I would request Sonia Singh to unmute. Okay, I'll just point out her question. Inequity would include gender, but also broaden policies for sustainability. And I think she is asking this question to Sanya and Namrata because you have been speaking about how gender is a priority. You mentioned gender as one of the priority areas. So would inequity be more encompassing, and what are your thoughts about that?
Hi, if I can see the question in the chat box, Sonia Singh has written inequity would include gender but also broaden policies for sustainability. Yes, of course, we've been through our report, we've been trying to put up this in front that, even though there are some schemes and policies where gender is inclusive, but when we look at water in India, these in fact these five areas that we were talking about, they don't come in together. So the problem that we wanted to highlight these five areas starting with gender was that because all these issues, water issues, when we went for our field visits, it was not just what we've been reading in reports or examples that I just quoted in my presentation. We could see it up front in those field visits where women were the ones who were actually going and fetching the water. The whole responsibility were on them to provide that to their households. So and it really is, I don't know, I mean, there needs to be a mindset change also within that if the policy comes in such areas, but to really make people aware that how inclusive policies will not only give them a chance to be in that participatory decision making process in water management in India, but also how women together have come up with those ideas to conserve water. And we need to have this shift from women as victims to agency of leading the water management in their respective areas. So it will actually really help if we not personally, I feel that we shouldn't be looking these five areas individually that much, because the whole idea was to bring these varied threads together to really understand the conservation of water in India. And yeah, that's, and if Namrata you want to add on to it, please feel free to. But that's what is all from my side.
No, at the moment, I think that is all from me as well, unless there is something specific when you talk about principles of sustainability. So maybe if Sonia can highlight a little bit more.
Uh, while we hear back from
I
Sonia.
don't think my mic is working. Can you hear?
Okay, there she is. Yes.
Can you hear can you hear me?
Yes.
No, no? You
Yes.
can hear me. Oh, wow. Look, what I meant with inequality is that, come on, the rich with the poor, the city with the rural. So let's take this GPS outbreak in Pune at Nanded, the well in the village, and next to it was Nanded city with a huge water system and filtration, same water source next to each other. So there it doesn't become gender. There's the inequality by a line drawn. It's not even a straight line. It's not. I really commend your concept of hydrological boundaries, but I don't want to go away from inequality. But here the boundary is in a village. And there was always this boundary, remember? Caste and class. So just why I felt that you bring in inequality, in that give value to gender, of course, because the woman is taking the brunt of the inequality. That's my point.
Yeah, rightfully so. And I think the reason why we've put gender as a lens through which inequity or inclusivity can be looked at is because gender can be cut across all the different caste, class, and different elements. And if you include gender, then you're covering a broader range of equity issues. So, because even through our examples, we saw the more marginalization has been in different socioeconomic regions, which has these elements of caste and class both intersecting. So,
that might be a novel way also to approach, because as you mentioned, looking at it, these issues from a gendered perspective might also be a way to look at inequity. So while with that, we have a few questions from Nishigandha. Uh, Nishigandha, would you like to unmute yourself?
Hi, can you hear me? And I'd like to actually turn on my video also, if that's a possibility. You're on mute.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
I'll just try that.
Yeah.
Okay, can't get through the video. All right, so I'm basically currently doing my research on water circularity and in the field of policy making or probable for policy making in the built environment. So I'm an architect by profession. The questions I had two questions. One was that since water is a state subject, since we're talking about policy making, there has to be certain kind of a legislative interaction between what we see and how we transfer it to the final stakeholders, which are the users. So since water is a state subject in our country, how would it be suitable to look at boundary-less maps? Because every time we are going to come across some kind of state border where the policies are completely different, or conservation policies will be different. So how would it be appropriate to then look at a boundary-less map?
right. Yeah, if I can take, and then maybe Sanya, you can add to it. Nishigandha, yeah, unfortunately, sorry, we could not see that your video, but probably someone has given you host right. So in case you want to turn on your video, that would be nice. Yeah. Oh, hi. So you're very right. The uh, issue about that water is part of state subject, and to imagine this would then probably look very radical at this moment. But through our study and through different kind of understanding of different policies, what we have seen is the understanding of biogeographies within agriculture also. Agriculture is also a state subject, but a lot of the agricultural policies that are determined are based on the agroclimatic zones, which are little bit in extension of the biogeographic zones. Similarly, wildlife, national parks, etc., that we have also have, and the biodiversity parks that we have, all of them also are technically state subjects, but still have the larger principles of biogeography. So we feel that this is not that difficult, and probably when we actually start adopting these practices in within different localities, like looking at a particular region, like again going back to Bundelkhand as an example, the local Bundelkhand people, if they start looking at some of these examples, so from there it can step up, and it could then kind of pass on to the entire state. And there are so many other examples where states are also coordinating between well, Krishna Basin, where I come from, there is a lot of contest between the riparian rights of upper and lower between Maharashtra and Karnataka. But at the same time, within the same Krishna Basin, you would see there's a lot of collaboration between Karnataka and Telangana. Some of the irrigation policies that are made between the two states are very harmonious, understanding the needs of both upper riparian and the lower riparian. Some of the check dams that are built again have those things, as well as the new adoption of, like, there are I'm not remembering the name of, because I cannot pronounce it also. There are particular kind of water structures that Telangana has within the basin, which continue to recharge the groundwater and contributes to the river basin. Those similar practices now Karnataka is also thinking of adopting within their state. So a collaboration can happen. We have been, I think, it is believed that it will only be an issue of conflict, but when resources are shared with an intention of preserving for both of them and understanding and mapping needs, what kind of water needs are for both sides, there is a possibility. And like we always say in case of transboundary also, more and more data sharing, inclusive, or having a joint basin management authorities. So where both the perspectives of upper riparian, lower riparian are present. This could still be imagined. And honestly, right now, this is need of the hour. We know that this perspective needs to be brought in so that we can also maintain ecological flows. And I would like to end and maybe hand it to Sania before that it's not that bioregional principles are not adopted in our other water policies also. The rights of rivers as a concept had been recognized by one of the High Court judgment. Then ecological flows in Ganga Basin is mandated. The Ganga Basin also cuts across so many different states of India, different jurisdictions. So some of these principles and understanding do exist. The Atal Bhujal Yojana that is there, which is talking about groundwater. Groundwater is the best example of transboundary resource. So some of these examples exist. It's a matter of bringing them together, and we feel very strongly that these case study led approach will definitely help in guiding that process. Thank you.
Adding on to Namrata's point, she very correctly pointed out the whole thing. But just adding on to that thing that when we both went for a field visit, it's not just about state. It's also about the areas or the villages within those state, within those regions actually have different solutions to their problems. We went to Jaipur and two different villages within Jaipur had different problems within the same region. So the whole idea was to really understand from cross learning some of the issues that a village in Jaipur is facing can also be a similar issue a village in somewhere in south could be facing with, as we mentioned, that water cannot be studied in silos. With the topography, elevation, rainfall pattern, everything has its own meaning. So the whole point is to really understand from the holistic point of view and to integrate all of these issues. So cross learning plays a very big role here, which also, as Namrata pointed out, states are doing. And maybe it's just the beginning. And maybe as we move forward, people will be aware of such practices and would like to encompass those in their policies or in the states. So all these learnings will somewhere take us somewhere. So that's what I want to say.
Yeah, thank you so much for your clarification. I just had one more small question. So, I'm largely working in the field of water circularity. So, what are your thoughts on water circularity in the governance side? Because basically when we think of sustainability these days, the first thing that comes to our mind is reduce, reuse, recycle. It's basically our motto when it comes to commodities. But water is something that we are not able to kind of really get a good pattern for circularity. So can you just throw some light on that?
Tanya, you want to take that question?
I have very limited knowledge about it, but bringing back to your point to our report where we classified, where we actually pointed out some of the historical management, water management ways, rainwater harvesting, which has been going on for like more than 40 years. Just saying that rainwater harvesting is still very much evident in today's time, so which is also about conserving water. So I think going back to these practices and learning from such practices and how to integrate such historical practices into our modern times with the new problems can really help us understand all these new issues that are coming up. So if Namrata, you want to please.
So in when we talk about issues that are plaguing, which contribute to water challenges, one of them definitely is circularity, lack of circularity, that a lot of our water is getting wasted, especially water from washing dishes or kitchen kind of use. The gray water, especially. The black one definitely needs much more level of cleaning, but the gray water. But the problem Sania and I were looking at a research 1 year before, which was looking at tier 2 cities, and then we realized that we do not have different systems. Both gray and black water get mixed from the systems and then they go. So therefore, all the entire water that comes out of our thing, it just the systems that we have right now are very centralized, which make it much more difficult and very cost. Uh, the cost is very high when you're looking at resolving or putting these STPs, And a lot of times that's why even though there are STPs, they are not functioning. And with the rising demand and rising urbanization and urban population, these things are only going to get further increased. So therefore, I think we need to have, like we are having water systems for the best practices for water harvesting, there are also practices where some of the wastewater can be using nature-based solutions. Clean the sites that we saw in Gurgaon and in Noida, especially in cities, you would see more and more of these sites are coming up where uh, using natural system where they are planting some I don't remember the name of the plants, but some of those plants which naturally clean the water, and then introducing some fishes that also clean water. So that circularity needs to be integrated, and it has to start from having different systems at the household level, where a gray water and black water is separated, so which can be then used for garden or other kind of purposes. Yeah, I think Mr. Bajaj is available, Radhika. Want to invite him?
Yes, sure. Hello, sir. We are looking forward to hearing from you.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. While I was trying to get into the meeting and trying out different Zoom combinations, I was listening to all these comments that the various people have been making. So one or two points come to my mind, which I think we need to clarify. As some of the speakers have already mentioned, uh, water is basically a state subject. So all these years, I mean, since long, maybe 2 decades, we have been trying to do this integrated basin river management scheme. Water flows across 3-4 states at a time, and we tried to get the states on board and get them to uh, agree to some sort of most optimal usage of the water available. But it's a very sad state of affairs that none of the states are willing to come on board and agree to collaborate with the neighboring states or the co-basin states. So that has been a major failure, and this interstate disputes and not agreeing to any welfare schemes that would benefit all the 4 states, that also nobody is willing to uh, agree to, because everybody feels that, oh, if I agree to this, my share of the water will go to the neighboring state, which is a very political hot potato issue, and nobody agrees to this. So the same problem of no non-resolution between the states, it has also stopped this very ambitious scheme of interlinking of river water, where we had thought of bringing the water right from Brahmaputra in the north down to the south in the water deficit states. But states which we know have huge surplus quantities of water which they are not able to utilize, even those states are unwilling to cooperate in this matter, and no interlinking river schemes except maybe 2 or 3 very small ones they have taken off on the ground. So unless, I mean, it won't be possible also to change this ruling. Even bringing water into the concurrent list of the constitution is not possible. It has to stay in the state list only. And even state governments with the same party, they also don't agree to each other's collaborating with each other. So we have very strong disputes between states like Haryana and Punjab, for example, or down south between Telangana, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, basically on the Kaveri system. And as far as some achievement which has been possible is for the Krishna and the Godavari basin. And as you know, there are various tribunals also which look into the interstate water sharing of the same river system. So under that, Krishna Water Dispute Tribunal was there, which has recently given its award, and awards are there for most of the southern states. So under that scheme, two river basin management authorities headed by the central government officials, they have been set up at with headquarters located in Hyderabad. They are this Krishna River Basin Authority and the Godavari River Basin Authority. But they are also, although they have some statutory powers to order states to do what they want to do, but most of the states are reluctant to even obey their orders. And it's basically sort of stalemate as far as this River Basin Management Authority is concerned, or integrated river basin management for optimal utilization of the waters. You have stopped me from opening my video. If you like, you can open this. Give me permission to open the video. It says you cannot start your video because it is disabled by the host.
You are a co-host now, sir.
Okay, but it is not allowing me to. Yeah, okay, now we are here. Okay, then after that, we have to understand that no matter what we try to do, India is going to be remaining as a water-stressed nation throughout. For example, if we take a comparison, there's a measurement called per capita water availability, PCWA. So it is basically related to the population because the water available in a geographical area is constant and doesn't change much over the years, although the availability might change spatially or maybe over time or over the areas. For example, Brahmaputra has the maximum water where it is not utilizable, and Gujarat and this in Rajasthan, they have very little water, and most of the water falls in the monsoon months. 75% of India's precipitation is during the monsoon months only. So, but basically, it's population related, and this PCWA, or the per capita water availability in cubic meters per year, it used to be somewhere in the range of 5,200 at the time of independence, or in 1951. Basically, that is the figure we have. And over the years, because of the increasing population, today we are at a level of only 1,400 cubic meters per year per person per capita. And there is a UN definition that if you have less than 1,700 PCWA, then that is a stress line. You are under a stress zone, that you are not able to provide sufficient water for your population to go get enough water. And there is, of course, a scarcity line also that is defined. It is 1,000. And India is gradually going to that portion. It is expected by 2050, if this trend continues, we'll be at the scarcity zone. And whatever schemes that we try, we can only mitigate a little bit of the problems that are going to come up. But basically, unless there is some revolutionary development in these coming years, India is going to be water stressed in the near about future. Our neighboring countries are much better off. For example, Bangladesh has 8,800 cubic meters PCWA, and Nepal, which has so many rivers which flow into India and flood Bihar and UP areas every year, they also have about 9,100 cubic meters. That is because although they have lots of water flowing in their rivers, but population is more. So if you see countries with lesser population, Myanmar is there. It has 22,000 PCWA, and Bhutan has a humongous 45,500 PCWA. They have so much water that we have been collaborating with Bhutan to build projects there and then take water to our side of the areas. And there has been some progress there, but basically not too much because of the conditions. And it may surprise some of you that to see which is the country which is most comfortably placed in terms of water availability per capita for their population. And it is not Russia or Brazil with their big rivers, or even USA. It is Canada, which has about 94,500 PCWA for their population. But this does not mean that we cannot manage our water efficiently. We have the example of Israel, which has only 275 PCWA, and yet they are doing very well for themselves by adopting very strong conservation methods like drip irrigation for agriculture and things like that. So, talking of this climate change, which is going to affect our water resources hugely, the climate change, what it is doing is that basically it is melting out the snow glaciers in the Himalayas, which used to be a perennial source of water during the summer months, water flowing down from the higher regions of Himalayas into these lower Himalayas. And that those glaciers are all melting slowly. And plus the rainwater, the rain's precipitation pattern has changed very much, because now there is more intense rainfall in much shorter durations. And unless we build storages to somehow retain that water which comes during maybe 10, 12, 15 days of the year, instead of spread out over the whole of the monsoon period, like 90 days or something, unless we build storages to conserve that water and stop that water from flowing to the Bay of Bengal or whatever western flowing rivers, very few. So we will not be able to manage water, and this is one grievance which we water engineers have against these traditional environmentalists and conservationists, that they go all out just for seeing that conservation is the environment is the basic thing which is protected at all costs. But that is why we are not able to build many new storage dams. So far, we have been able to build about 300 billion cubic meters of storages. And most of these, you will be surprised to know, they were built in the 60s, 70s, and maybe up to mid 80s. And after that, very little conservation storage dams have been added, hardly 100, not even 100, whereas our requirement is to somehow come to 500 BCM of storage capacity to be able to provide some relief measures to the population.
So, but sir, we do have like a lot of smaller check dams and farm ponds, which do not contribute to that large storage systems, which have been, but do contribute to recharging groundwater and
Yeah.
ensuring. So maybe there are different ways of storing water, and especially in cities, more and more we need to do rainwater harvesting at household level.
One of you, I think you are headquartered at Pune. So if that Khadakwasla dam was not there, can you imagine what would have been happening to your water supply system? This is the problem in Delhi. On the Yamuna River, there is no single water storage dam. And we have to manage by great scarcity during the non-monsoon months. And in the monsoon months, the Yamuna flows in huge quantities and goes right down further to Allahabad and further down maybe to even Farakka Barrage, from where a little bit of conservation is there. There's no other dam on the Yamuna. So now these small check dams, basically you look at the size of the problem. You build huge storage dams, you can cater for a full year of non-rain. In fact, we have a statistic that Russia has built so many dams and water storage projects that even if it doesn't rain for 3 years in Russia, they will be able to supply water to their population. That's a very interesting figure that is there. So these small check dams, they are okay for just the local population near about, and of course they do little bit charging of the water, groundwater. But then again, it depends if too much water extraction is there from the ground during the non-monsoon months. And these small check dams, they will not be able to help in your this thing. Similar is the problem with rainwater harvesting. I have a rainwater harvesting system in my house, which is about 250 odd square yards. But the total amount of water that I am able to put into the ground, I'm withdrawing much more than that because of non-availability of water supply from the Delhi Jal Board, who are not able to supply. So Pune is fortunate that you had this Pragwasa Dam earlier, and in Delhi we are unfortunate, and in Yamuna we are still, after 20-25 years of identifying what dams are to be made, we are still nowhere near completing them, and some work has started, but it will take another 10-15 years to build those storages and mitigate some of the problems for the Delhiites.
Hello, sir. Sorry, we need to intervene here due to time duration.
Yeah,
Thank
fine. Any questions anybody wants to ask, I'll be happy to answer.
Yes. We have opened up the discussion session with the participants. So
Okay.
if anyone would like to ask any question, please do. Uh, and with that, we would also like to come to the end of today's session where where Kubernein Initiative is also officially launching their report, and we would request Namrata, Sanya, and Bajaj sir to share their thoughts about the launch of the report. So over to you, Namrata and Sanya.
Thank you, Radhika, firstly, for this opportunity. And I think we have shared some glimpses on the report, but what we would like is for people to read through and share with us more stories and more examples. And I think the conversation can then pick up from there. But thank you for this opportunity. Sanya, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Radhika, for this opportunity, and it was lovely speaking here on this report, the report which we've worked on extensively for 2 years, talking to people and visiting places. And it was an amazing experience. I'm sure Namrata would feel the same. And thank you to Kubernein also for giving us this opportunity to write a report like this, to work on such a report. Yeah, and I think if there are any feedbacks or suggestions that we should include, maybe you can email us or let us know if there's anything that we should also include more further into our report for second report. Yeah.
So, Radhika, I think I would like to invite my colleague Adhya, who has been contributing on this from the back end, right from the beginning of this report. So, maybe a moment where Adhya can also share some of her thoughts.
Thank you, Namrata. Sorry, I'm off video. Not a lot of things to share, but we would love to hear from all of you on what you think of the unique methodologies that we've used in the report. So all the emails are in the chat box, and we would really like to hear from you on what gaps you would like us to fill and what you thought of our report. Thank you, Namrata.
Okay. So there are a few discussions going around on the chat box, and we are glad to see people participating actively in the discussion. I think we just give last few minutes. If there are any burning questions, any points that people really need to put up front, please do take this opportunity to share them. If not, as the authors have mentioned, they have provided their email ID, so you feel free to contact them with your insights and thoughts. So yes. Okay. We don't see any more conversations happening. We would also like to thank everyone who was present over here today for this session. Thank you all. We'll come back to you with another round of Water Talk session sometime soon, and we'll let you know. So thank you so much for being present. Thank you,
Thank you, Radhika.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Uh, Hi, I
Okay.
have a quick
Yeah.
question. Uh, if I stop the recording now, does it get saved automatically, right?
Yeah, it would get saved.
Okay, so I'm just